Okay, welcome back. Again, we're in the general discernment phase, and we've talked about a little bit about the obstacles, we talked about the signs, and we've talked a little bit about how to choose, the practicalities of choosing. Now we want to talk about something a little more practical, and that's how do I tell my family, or how do I relate with my family regarding this issue. Up to this point, many people have many different ways that they've gone about dealing with their family in their vocational discernment process. Some families will know more, some families will know nothing because maybe they would be opposed, or maybe you think they would be opposed to your vocation. It depends. So there's a process though of filling them in upon what you're going to be, what you have been doing and what you've been doing next. So we want to prepare for that and make sure that things go as smoothly as they possibly can. And I think a lot of people fear this phase, fear telling their families, fear what their families might think, fear that the families might think that they're weird, that they're doing something, that they're wasting their life, so there are many different things that can come into one's mind. So we want to address those fears a little bit, and first of all talk about what that fear is. And the fear is that fear of rejection, fear that they won't love us anymore, fear that they will disapprove of what we're doing, and but that fear can be good. It tells us that we need to get ready to tell them and to make sure that that we do it in the best way possible. First, we want to ask ourselves, if I tell them and if they say this is a terrible idea and they're really opposed, what will happen to me? If that happens to me, will I just give up? Will I turn back? If that's the case, then maybe it's not the right time to tell them yet. Maybe first I need to continue to prepare and strengthen my soul to prepare, etc. But if I am still convinced, if I'm convinced that even if the worst happens, even if they say, this is a stupid idea, what are you doing, you're wasting your life, etc., then I'm still ready to go forward. Then we can talk about the next steps. So before we have this meeting or whatever with our parents or the rest of our family, we want to do our homework. We want to get things straight in our mind. We want to tell ourselves how we want to talk to them. And that, first of all, that we want to tell them about our history. How do we want to tell them what's happened to us, how we encountered Christ, what we've been doing the last whatever months, years, our prayer life, our discernment process, maybe the decisions that we've been making, all the things that have been leading up to this point, maybe how long I've been thinking about my vocation. You know, all these different questions that are going to come up in this conversation. We want to already have a response ready so that we can explain it in the best way so that parents will understand. So we want to talk about our history, and we also want to plan how we want to talk about the future. That's the big question of parents. You know, where are you going to be? How long are you going to be there? What are you going to be doing? Will I ever be able to visit you? Will you ever be able to come home? What if it doesn't work out? What about your future plans? What about all the things you wanted to do before? You know, all these questions that might come up.
Yeah. Health insurance.
Health insurance. all the practicalities that our parents, because they love us, they want to know about. So we want to at least have as much information as we can available for them so that we can at least sound like we're doing something that makes sense.
Yeah. So those are the first two steps. Get our hearts ready. You know, am I going to be ready if the worst happens? I'm going to move forward anyway and do our homework. Step number 3 is we want to set the stage. And by that I mean we want to choose an appropriate time and place to tell them. We want to make sure that whatever time we choose, there's enough time for them to discuss it. It's not like, you know, they head off to work and we say, oh, by the way, I'm going to be a priest, see ya. That doesn't work that way. And also a place that's appropriate where we can be comfortable with their reaction, they can be comfortable maybe expressing themselves, and we don't have to worry about, you know, getting in a big fight or anything. So choosing an appropriate time and place, not maybe when the Super Bowl is going on, not when they're in the middle of their, you know, weekly poker night with the guys where it's like, we want to stay away from occasions where they're distracted or whatever. We want to make this a serious conversation. That said, we also need to consider maybe a couple of things, and I'm not saying either one of these you have to do. There are options maybe for this setting the stage. One is maybe consider having a few allies. If you have a sibling, or if you have one of your parents who you know is really favorable to you becoming a priest or a nun, and maybe you think the rest of the family you're not so sure about, or you're pretty sure they're not going to be happy, then maybe you kind of tell that person first so that in the midst of this conversation they can be there and they can be your support and your ally. Not everybody has to do that, not everybody needs that, but you might want to consider it. Another thing to consider is buttering them up. So that they're ready. Maybe, you know, taking out the trash or giving a big hug or saying thank you for this, that, and the other thing. really showing some appreciation and some gratitude for your parents, or spending some fun time with them, doing something that gets them ready so that if they are going to be upset, they're at least going to know you love them and that you care about them. So if you've set the stage and you've done your homework and you're ready inside to tell them, then what does the conversation look like? You might want to rehearse it, of course, up front, but what are you going to rehearse? There's really 4 parts to the conversation. And the first part is you want to start with common ground, with a common purpose. And what is it that our parents and our families want for us? If they love us, they want us to be happy. They want what's best for us. They want us to do what's going to make us happy. And so the first thing we want to start with is we want to start with that frame of mind and that frame of conversation of, look, I know that you've always wanted what's best for me, and you've always supported me, and you've always helped me. If that's true, then we should start there and we should tell them those things. So that's the first part, is start with that common ground, that common purpose, that everyone wants what's best for you. Second thing is then tell them your story. You did your homework, tell them the facts. Look, here's what happened to me. I went on a World Youth Day, or I did the... Tell them, I met this person and they changed my life, and now, or I read this book and it started me on a journey, and now I'm doing... Whatever it was that happened to you, tell them that story. And when you get done with the story, then you tell them your hypothesis. You're not sure, it's just you think, your conclusion up till now is, I think God is calling me to be a priest. I think He's calling me to be a nun. That's the next part. So common purpose, tell your story, tell them your hypothesis, and then part 4 is ask for their feedback. What do you think? What are some of your concerns? And if you have the answers already, here's when you can come visit me, or here's where I'm probably going to go if I go to study, or here's the community I'm thinking of joining, and here's how long formation takes, and here's where it's at. And if you know those things, share them. If you don't know them, say, I don't know, I'm still trying to figure things out. Here's probably what I'm going to do next. Here's probably what will happen after that if things move forward. Tell them as much as you know, and when you don't know, tell them, I don't know. So that's that conversation. And then the last thing that I'm really going to say is, whatever happens, keep moving forward in your vocational sermon and keep loving your family. And then you wanted to say something about how to help the family.
Yeah, one of the main concerns of the family is what do we do now? Especially if the family is favorable, maybe they're actually happy. Sometimes that can happen. They're happy and they want to tell the whole world. So they call grandma, they call their brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles, cousins, everybody they know, everybody at the parish. Soon it's on Facebook, everybody in the entire world knows. And we want to avoid that as much as possible because we're still at the beginning stages, and in theory at this point, we're still at the stage of testing the waters. We're still at the stage of trying the religious life. Maybe you're not even sure yet that you want to actually be in this community. So we want to take things very slowly, most of all because we don't want to create all these exterior pressures on ourselves. And that's what happens. So everywhere you go, people are like, oh, you're going to become a priest. Oh, you're going to become a nun. Oh, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. You'd be so good at that. You create all these expectations, but you're still in the discernment process. You still haven't confirmed your vocation. Yeah. So we want to help our parents to keep this on the down low. It doesn't mean you can't tell grandma. It doesn't mean you can't tell maybe some really close friends. Obviously that's good. It's not necessarily bad. They can pray for you. But it would probably be unwise to go on Facebook and say, hey everybody, I'm going to be a priest, pray for me. So you create all kinds of unwanted pressures. We worked a couple years ago with a young man who did just that. Basically, he was really excited about his vocation, so he told everybody. He told all of his family, everybody that he knew, everybody that he worked with, all of his friends. It was all over Facebook. Everyone knew that, okay, he's going to become a priest. Yeah. Well, what happened was the experience didn't go well. He ended up leaving, and it was kind of a major fallout. It was a disaster. And he was upset, and it was difficult. He had to tell everybody that that's not what he was going to do, and it was embarrassing. And also that situation just created lots of outside pressure. So we want to tell our parents that, hey, we want to inform you as much as possible, but at the same time, we don't want to put too much pressure on ourselves by all these people knowing. That being said, also, if our parents are not as excited as we would like, maybe if they're upset or if they're really angry, that can also create pressure. We talked about this a little bit before, but I just want to reiterate that again, that if our parents are not favorable to our discernment, but we're still convinced that we need to go forward. We need to go forward, but we also need to avoid having their influence be too much pressure on us. Now again, I don't want to say that we want to be disobedient. I don't want to say that we should inform our parents, but there's no reason to create extra pressure, there's no need to create extra anger within the family if I don't need to. So avoid that if possible. You don't have to tell them every single step that you're taking. You don't have to always be in contact with them, especially if they're upset, because that's going to make me upset and it's going to create unclarity in my vocation. So again, like Father Scott said, we're going to love our families no matter what, and we can assure you that even if our parents are excited, even if they're happy at the beginning, it's always a learning process, it's always a growing process. And we have to trust that as we grow, and as we grow in our conviction and in our vocation, that slowly God is going to bring our family along with us. And that's the beautiful things we've seen in our own lives, is that the vocation that you receive is not a gift only for you. It's a gift for everybody that's around you, especially those who are closest to you. We've seen that with our families, we've seen that with the other priests and sisters that we know and their families. And so it's a great gift, so we want to always love our family and make them a part of this great process.